Shalom, shalom, Israel. Welcome back to another edition of Bible Basics. Tonight's lesson is the Holy Covenant of Israel. So, first and foremost, let's just to get a baseline, right? Because oftentimes I would say the world, is under the impression that the Bible is for all people, that God loves all people equally, that we are all God's children, and that the promises that are written in this book are, I think the word is unilateral, like it applies to everybody, and that's not the case. Now I'm gonna keep it the way it is. Let's start off at Exodus chapter 19. Exodus chapter 19, and we're going to start at verse 3, and we're going to read down to verse 6.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 19, and verse 3. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians.
Hold on. He said, first and foremost, you'll notice a pattern. Every time the Most High is speaking to the prophets, he's speaking to the mediators, he's speaking to Moses, he's speaking to Aaron, he's always saying, speak unto the house of Israel, the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel. First and foremost, names exist for a reason, right? If you was in a room full of people, and somebody calls out your name, then you know that they're addressing you specifically. Now, if 10 other people turn around and look, and you be like, hey, man, I got your $20 I owe you. Hey, Rakab, I got your $20. 10 other people come over and try to claim your money. That's a problem. That's not your name. This is not your right, right? So when you read in the Bible and you see the Most High is always speaking to the house of Jacob, the children of Israel, which are one and the same, Jacob is the progenitor of the Israelites. His name was changed to Israel, which means to be a prince of power. He that prevails with God and with man. That's what the name Israel means, right? So when you hear Jacob and Israel talking about the same man, talking about the same people, but he's always addressing this people by name, right? Go ahead.
Verse 4. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself.
He said, you saw what I did to the Egyptians. What did he do to the Egyptians? When our people were in Egypt, in captivity, we were literally saved. There was no war. There was no political overthrow. There was no coup. The Most High God literally put plagues upon Egypt, which actually corresponded to their gods, but that's a point for another time, and used these signs and wonders to put pressure upon Pharaoh and the Egyptians to let our people go. After our people finally were given or were liberated, Pharaoh tried to pursue after our people. And when Moses parted the Red Sea, the Most High held the sea so that the children of Israel could cross, but he closed it and killed the Egyptians. So the Most High is saying, rightfully so, he's flexing. He's like, look, I'm the one that did that. I'm the one that saved y'all out of that situation. You was in captivity. Y'all was slaves, and I saved you from it, killing the Egyptians in exchange for your lives. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
He said, now, if you keep my commandments, he said, man, I'm going to value y'all more than I value anything else on this earth, especially above all these other people. He said, if you obey. Now, a lot of times, as a matter of fact, I'm going to get a quick precept to add on to this. Let's select it 1 second. A lot of times we think that just knowing we are Israelites is enough. Let's go to Matthew chapter 3 and verse 9. We think that knowing we're an Israelite is enough. Now, the Most High, absolutely, he says it numerous times throughout the Bible that we are special, that we're holy. Matter of fact, we're going to come back to this to read the next verse because he says it right here. However, the important word in verse 5, he said, now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed. It's a choice. He said, if I gave you these laws, I gave you these commandments, I gave you statutes and judgments, but we still have something called free will. We still can decide what it is that we want as long as we're willing to deal with the consequences or the results, because it's not always negative. Matthew chapter 3, let's get verse 9.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 3 and verse 9.
Uh-huh.
And think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you, that God is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham.
Uh-huh.
And now also the axe is laid unto the root of the trees.
So he said, so this is Christ. He's already making it clear. Don't sit up here and think to say, just because Abraham is Jacob's grandfather, the progenitor of our race, the progenitors of our race. The Most High established a covenant with Abraham saying, look, I'm going to deal with you and your descendants. Abraham had a son named Isaac. He said, even though you have an older son, Ishmael, Isaac is the one that I actually choose. It's like you might as well only have one son because this is the only one I acknowledge. That's how the Most High was moving. And that's how the Most High is moving. From Isaac has a son named Jacob. He has two sons, but he says, this is the one that I want. So he's saying, don't think just because you come of this lineage that you're automatically entitled to the kingdom of heaven, because that's just not the case. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 19. 19. Let's start back at verse 5.
Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed,
Go ahead.
and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, and for all the earth is mine.
Go ahead.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel.
Unto who?
The children of Israel.
Unto the whole world?
Unto the children of Israel.
He's talking to a particular people. He said, if you will obey, he said, you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. The word holy literally means to be set apart, to be different. He said, this is what's going to make you different. And then also you have to think, in history, Bibles were not mass produced. We had scrolls, and these scrolls were kept with, in the temple, within our actual archives and artifacts, and they were only dealt with by the priests and the scribes. The Bible didn't, it wasn't widespread, and didn't everybody have access to it as they do now. So now you can get Bibles written in Chinese and China and Korean and all these other different places, and anybody could read it and feel like this relates to them. But that's not the case. Let's go over to Deuteronomy chapter 7. I hear so many people talk about God loves everybody and we're all equal in God's eyes. We're all God's children. That ain't even what the Bible says. 7 and 6. Come on.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Uh-huh.
The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself.
Hold on. He said you are a separate people, because holy means to be separate, unto the Lord thy God. Out of everybody, there's a distinction that's been made with us, with the children of Israel. He said, the Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself. Where in this do we see equality? Where in this do we see that every person that exists is God's children? We're all his creations, sure enough. Can't deny that. Can't take that from anybody that's living. But we're not all chosen. We're not all special. We're not all a peculiar treasure. He only said that about the children of Israel. Go ahead. Listen to this next part, though.
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Read it again.
Let me start from the top.
No, just from there.
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
He said, you are above all people that are upon the face of the earth. A lot of times if we look at our parents, you might have 2 siblings, 1 sibling, you might have 10. And it kind of comes up, whether it's with children, with adults, with students, with jobs, whatever, where you're performing a task that someone else is potentially performing, or someone's in your similar or exact position or title. You start to wonder where you fare as far as being ranked with your parent or your supervisor or your spouse, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times, parents play it safe. I remember when we was kids, we would ask, Mom, who's your favorite? Dad, who's your favorite? Oh, I love you guys equally. Somebody got to be the favorite. Somebody got to do something just a little bit different from the other kids. And we feel like it's such a horrible thing because we're afraid of being the ones left out. But the Most High is not afraid to say, y'all are the ones that I really like. You're the ones that I actually want to deal with. I don't care about these other nations. And I'm going to show you, he literally says that. He's like, I'm not really interested. He even said, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. How are we equal? How are we chosen and we all the same? Like, you chosen, but you going to get this? No. Somebody got to be the top dog. Let's go over to, let's go to Amos. Come back to that one, I think. So these are like the starter scriptures in a sense, like Old Testament and New Testament. You see time and time again where God pledges his allegiance to Israel and says, I expect this in return. I expect some reciprocation. Amos chapter 3, we're going to read verse 1 and 2.
This is the book of Amos, chapter 3 and verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying.
And he's still saying, children of Israel. Never is addressing, or I ain't going to say never. If he addresses somebody else, it's usually, I'm going to destroy this. I'm going to tear this down. Say to the king of Babylon, you got this long left before I come and tear stuff up. But when he talks about promises and covenants and the kingdom of heaven, the spirit, he's always saying, speak unto the children of Israel. Go ahead.
You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities.
He said, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. First and foremost, possession. I remember Yashamai has said it. He said, it's not just about who you know, it's about who knows you. If you sit up here and have somebody that you're, first and foremost, we see that all the time in the world. Somebody of renown, somebody with a reputation, walks in, comes around, whatever the case may be. Everyone wants to associate themselves. Oh, man, I seen him in the club. Oh, man, I was over there with him. I was there when this happened. Yeah, but then you ask the guy who's actually producing and who's actually like the star or whatever the case may be, they like, who? It was, huh? I don't know him. I don't know her. You may know, but who knows you? He said, you're the only one that I've known of all the families of the earth. Out of all these different people, all these different names, all these different time periods, he said, these are the people that I'm actually tracking and I'm actually a God to, and I actually have a relationship with. And you have to think, would you give anything to anybody? Would you let anybody drive your car? No. Somebody walking down the street's like, hey, man, I really got to get up here in 10 minutes, man. If I can just get up here, I'll come back. Man, 20 minutes maximum, bro. Just let me get your car keys. I'll be right back. You'd be a fool. And that would be a crazy request. Like, what? I don't know you. I don't know you. Why would I give you something special? Why would I give you some type of privilege? Why would you have some level of access to what I could do if I don't know you? The Most High is the same way. And he's saying, out of everybody, of all these families of the earth, y'all are the ones that I know. He said he's speaking this to the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 3.
No. Let's finish the second half of verse 2.
Therefore I will punish you all for all your iniquities.
He said, and not only does it come with advantages, he said, but I'm also going to hold you to a higher standard. You ever heard the saying, you can't be betrayed by a stranger? You get robbed by a stranger, it's not like, oh man, I can't believe you doing this to me. I don't know who this is. You get into a fight with a stranger, it don't feel like some deep level of betrayal. I don't even know who this is. I don't have no expectation for you. This is the expectation now. But if you have somebody that you love, you start to have a different level of expectation. I'm opening up to you. I'm expressing myself to you. You've become a safe zone. You're a friend. So the Most High is saying the same thing about the children of Israel. You are the ones that I know, but I'm also going to hold you accountable because I know you. Let's go over to Deuteronomy chapter 28. This is a part of the covenant. You know, we talk about the curses a lot, but the reality of this situation is we had a choice to make it blessings. And had we maintained our righteousness, we would be sitting up here explaining, have you ever noticed how good life is? We look at the curses and we have to relate to our people through struggle and trauma and misfortune, disadvantages. Oh, we're the last hired, first fired. Oh, the gang violence. Oh, the single parent households. Oh, the slavery. But he also said there were blessings in here. And he said, I'll give you these if you obey. So it was an ultimatum. Let's read verse 1 and verse 15.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I commanded thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
So first and foremost, here's the actual contract. If you obey me, still an if. Now you're chosen, but he said it's still you have to make the right choice. He said, I'm going to set thee on high above all nations of the earth. You're going to be above all these other people. I mean, man, this is the advantage. And verse 2 through 14 is nothing but blessings. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do that for you. You're going to have this. You're going to have that. You're going to be blessed and immeasurably. Let's drop down to verse 15.
Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Now he said, but there's a flip side. This is literally, not only are we called the children of Israel, but we have a father-child relationship with the Most High. There's actually a number of different ways that he expresses his love. He talks about like father, right? There's a form of, we can call him father. He said, I liken you also unto a comely and delicate woman. I'm married unto you. He said, every level of love that you can comprehend and that you can understand, he said, this is the way that I feel about you. I feel about you like a father with his child. I feel about you the way a husband with his wife. I feel about you the way a brother with his sibling. A brother with his brother. He said, but if you don't hearken, meaning if you don't listen and you don't obey to observe and do all these commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, he said, it's nothing but curses that's coming for you. So this is the side of the story that we see realized when we live our lives, when we look outside, when we walk through our communities. This is from 16 down to 68, that's what we got. We have, there's even verse 29, actually 28 and 29, talks about having astonishment of heart and groping at noonday. At the brightest point of the day, our people are reaching. You know what that is? That's mental illness. And how many people do you see on a daily basis going through our communities, just going to the store, going to your job, picking up the kids, whatever? You see people who are literally losing their minds, yelling at someone who's not there, talking to someone that's not there, They over there solving problems and doing equations, and they outside barefoot. He said, like, this is not a normal living condition. This is a curse. But these are things that God put upon us for our disobedience. That's one of many. But we have a lot of lessons up about the curses. Let's go over to Joel chapter 2, verse 27. If you've never read Deuteronomy chapter 28, read it in your own time. There's multiple lessons up on the channel to be able to understand the curses, to be able to, you know, brothers have done lessons with pictures and videos, all of the above. Joel 2 and 27.
This is the book of Joel, chapter 2 and verse 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed.
He said, first and foremost, you're going to know who I'm with. I'm in the midst of Israel. He said, my presence resides with this people. I'm not just always somewhere far distant. They blow the trumpet. Okay, here I go. He said, I'm with them. I'm in the midst. I hear their conversations. I'm observing what they do, how they behave. I'm there when they do good and when they do evil. He said, I'm in the midst. He said, and once again, of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God and none else. We talked, like earlier with Amos talked about knowing somebody. Do you know how many people say they know God and God don't know them? Even before we get to the actual target audience of Israelites who will or may or may not keep the law, look at all the people on the earth that claim to know God or claim to be Christian. I think it's like that Christianity statistically is the largest religion, has the largest following on earth. And I know everybody has their own definition of what that means, whether it's according to the Bible or not. But the vast majority of people on earth claim to be Christians, claim to be followers of Christ. You know how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of gospel songs it is? And the Most High is not dealing with the vast majority of them. First and foremost, because he like, I don't even know you. I used that example before. If somebody brought a random plate of food to you and you ain't never seen this person in your life, you gonna eat it? I got you a gift. Hey, I don't know. Even if you try to hand me some money, I might be skeptical, bro. I don't know you. Is this a trap? Is this something wrong? Is it some type of substance that's going to do some harm when I touch this money? Is this some kind of debt I'm getting myself into to pay back in some strange? What is this? Because I don't even know you. That's the value of being known. He said, I don't even know these other people, but I know you, Israel. Then he said, I am the Lord your God and none else. He said, I'm not a God to these other nations. When all of the other nations get on their knees and pray at night, the Most High is not hearing those prayers. He don't care. Now, there have been times where you see the Most High would say, oh, okay, look at this. Here's somebody that's of another nation that wants to honor me. Okay, you know what? You're useful. I'll use you for a purpose. But that does not guarantee them salvation the way that it's coming to my test. That doesn't guarantee them salvation the way it comes to the children of Israel. That doesn't give them right to the tree of life the way that the righteous of Israel have right to the tree of life. He's saying, okay, you know what? You're not as bad as your counterparts. You're not as bad as the rest of your nation. You might actually have some use. You might actually have an honorable legacy. You might actually be able to do something for my people. Because it's just like this. If you have kids, right, and they got friends, you like, all right, you know, them ain't my kids. Your kids' friends is not your kids. But if they do something for your child, you still appreciate that. All right, man, he got into a bad situation. You got him out. I appreciate that. You helped him out in a whatever the situation. I appreciate that. That's how the Most High deals with the other nations. Oh, okay, you want to be useful? Okay, I'll make you useful. Appreciate that. But you're not coming. You're not coming to stay over and live in a house now just because you did something good. No. Nah, you're not mine. I am the Lord your God and none else. And he said, you shall never be ashamed. Don't be ashamed of that. And I know oftentimes when we're reading, let's go to Romans chapter 11. Oftentimes when we're reading out of the Old Testament, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, that's the Old Testament. It's something new now. You talk, I get it. You talking about them Bible times. You talking about back then when it was, oh, okay, all right. No, we talking about right now today. Romans chapter 11, we're going to get verse 1 and verse 2.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 11 and verse 1. Say then, hath God cast away his people?
So everyone wants to understand the Bible, and there are so many different reasons as to why that doesn't happen. First and foremost, the Bible literally tells you, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He has not dealt so with any nation. That's Psalms 147, 19 and 20. He literally has put it within the children of Israel's spirits to be able to comprehend the word. That's the first thing. All nations that have the Bible don't have understanding. And that's why some of these things they can get, oh, okay, we talking about this. And yeah, I mean, you're still reading. But then you see all the confusion and all the different doctrines and all the splinters of understanding that branch out so far. You're like, man, are we reading out the same Bible? But that's because it hasn't been given to them to understand. It's been given to us. All praises. He said, hath God cast away his people? So the Old Testament, and I didn't go to probably half of them in the Old Testament where the Most High is addressing, claiming, and reestablishing how much he loves and deals with the children of Israel. But Paul asks in the New Testament, keep in mind, this is called the Apostle of the Gentiles. This man is the same one that was bringing people into Jerusalem and getting hands put on them for it because they didn't understand. If there was anyone, and he walked with Christ himself. He walked with Yahushua, the Messiah, the Son of the Most High himself. If there was anyone who would have right to say, oh, you don't understand that the way that you think you do, let me give you some, it would be Paul. If there was anyone to say, all nations are now welcome, I learned from Christ himself, it would have been Paul. But he's making it clear, hold on. God had God cast away his people, which he foreknew, the children of Israel? Go ahead.
God forbid.
He said, absolutely not. There's no way. Go ahead.
For I also am an Israelite, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin.
He said, there's no way. He said, I'm an Israelite. Don't get it confused. I'm not trying to bring some strange doctrine. I'm not trying to bring some strange people into the temple of the Most High. The people that he was bringing were Israelites that were from different countries and different spaces. No different than what we're doing today and what we experience today. If Christ was walking the earth right now, we would be the Gentiles. We would be those that were strangers to the commonwealth of Israel, growing up under customs of other countries with different languages, couldn't be further away from understanding who we are as a people that receive the word and receive light to be able to see, oh, well, hold on, this is us. Same story happening again, but this time strictly through spirit. Someone received the word and it's spreading like wildfire, church after church, Israelite after Israelite. It's traveling amongst us. It's not something you can stop. It's not something tangible. He said he's of the tribe of Benjamin. Go ahead.
Verse 2, God hath not cast away his people, which he foreknew. What yet not? What the scripture saith of Elias, how he maketh intercession to God against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed my prophets and digged down thine altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life.
Now, he said Elias, right? Elijah in the Old Testament. Making intercession to God against Israel. Still, mic test. We still dealing with the children of Israel. But that was in a negative sense, right? Again, a lesson for another time. So now, knowing that God has a chosen people, knowing that the covenant that he made, which we're going to still continue to get into, the promises that are in this book is only related to the children of Israel. And also, just for some backstory or some background, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, as well as all the other bywords and proverbs we go throughout all these different countries. I recently met a brother that was from, not Brazil, Belize. And I can't remember what the name he said his people was, but it was a name that they had for themselves. He was like, yeah, I'm a descendant of slaves that was coming from Africa, and we actually escaped our slave masters, settled in Belize, and then we have a whole community there. And if you look at him, he's about as dark as me. Similar features and everything. You would assume he's just an average so-called African American from a totally different country, speak a different language, got a whole history of his people that he can track. So some of our people go by African American, some of our people go by Jamaican, some of our people go by Mexican, Guatemalan, Chilean, Belizean, Brazilian, but we're still all the children of Israel. And Deuteronomy 28 explains the curses. Those are literally the description of what you will find the children of Israel enduring or enjoying in their time. Knowing that we're cursed, we're enduring, right? So knowing that we are this people that the Most High has established his covenant with, what does that covenant mean? What does that covenant, what does it entail? What, you know, he said, don't say just because you know you an Israelite or you have Abraham to your father that that's it. So what do we do, right? Let's stay in Romans. Flip over, actually, the next chapter. Let's start at chapter 12 and verse 1. We're going to get 1 and 2.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 12 and verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God.
Hold on. So he said, I beseech you. Basically, like I'm righteously begging you, brethren. I'm trying to convince you by the mercies that God has already given that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice. What do we have to sacrifice? Well, first and foremost, the number one thing that we read a number of times in the scriptures before this and in the Old Testament, and the first scripture we started off with, he said, if ye will keep my commandments, if ye will abide in my law, that's a sacrifice. Because guess what? Just like any relationship, this requires sacrifice and compromise and care and consideration. You have to make a choice to do things or not do things in a relationship. It's a choice. The Most High says, I want you to, or rather, the scriptures are reading, and ultimately it's the word of the Most High. He said, I want you to present your bodies a living sacrifice. Deny the things that you're accustomed to, that you desire, that you crave for the sake of my law. That's what the Most High is saying. Because it's a lot of things, and especially, oh my goodness, especially in this day and age. I mean, it's terrible out here. The way that sin has been so normalized. The way that sin is everywhere. And it's in I'm talking about even in the very, sin is so prevalent, it's hard to catch sometimes. Even in something so small like, man, you know how people be like, man, on God. No, I'm telling you, on God. And then you read in the scriptures, he's like, don't swear by my name. We sit up here and we eat all these different types of foods whole time, not even knowing there's a dietary law. We do whatever we want, whenever we want, whole time, not knowing there are holy days that we are to refrain from buying, selling, and working, and even at sometimes cooking. For us to know that there's a way we even have to treat one another that could potentially cross over into sin because of a lack of consideration and care. It goes deep. But to be able to do all those things, you have to make the choice to sacrifice. And when your body says, and it's no different, most sin is, you can relate to it in one way or another. If a man, never struggle with homosexuality, right? But you can still struggle with sexual lust because every man is interested in women. But you can't just go sleep and touch and be with every woman. It's that simple. So you can relate to somebody that struggles with some other form of sexual immorality because you have to control your desires. In doing so, you present yourself as a sacrifice. I'm sacrificing what I really want to do. I'm sacrificing for the sake of the law. That's what it's supposed to be. He said, holy, acceptable unto God, for you to be separate and to be acceptable, which is, go ahead.
Which is your reasonable service.
And he said, with the things that I promise you, this is reasonable. I'm not asking you for anything like, this is more than a fair trade. If you want to be technical, and you really want to be, the Most High, I don't want to say he's losing more, but he's giving so much more than what he's actually asking for. He's offering us so much more than what he's asking for a return. Even, I mean, we're far past the point where humans themselves are living 300, 400, 500 years. But even if you really put it into perspective, and it's easier said than done, we might live, what, 80, 90 years? And it ain't too many people living at that age. To keep the commandments for that span of time, no matter what time you're in, no matter what the law is at that time, no matter what kingdom is in control, and no matter what the battle is, you might only got 80 or 90 years. And for that service, the exchange is eternal life. Eternal life at peace, at that. We're not talking about eternal life and you still got to work and figure things out and make money, but even that would be a great trade. I think what's so stressful about having to figure things out is because we know we're going to die. We like, man, you look up, you 5 years on the job. Damn, I said I was going to get here and just pay my bills. Now I'm stuck. I done spent 5 years at this minimum wage job. It happens. Man, I look up and I got all these things relying on me, or all these things I said I was going to do, I was going to be. Man, I told myself I was going to get back in the gym. Now your hip hurt, got a bad knee, your shoulder. You got all these different issues because we're still mortal. We only have so much time to be able to offer these things. Verse 2.
And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
He said, and be not conformed to this world. This world has never been about the Most High. At best, we were in our land, a small chunk of the earth, where we were actually honoring, worshiping, and serving the Most High in righteousness. And even of our history, there's only certain times in our history that was actually happening. The world itself has always been consumed with wickedness, always been consumed and occupied in evil. So we have to understand that we live in this world amongst the people of this world. We can't be assimilated into the ideology, into the worship, into the customs, into the habits of the world. He said, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. He said, you have to be transformed. Even if you wasn't that bad of a person according to the world standards, maybe you wasn't no killer, maybe you wasn't in the streets, maybe you wasn't doing some of the things that some of our people have gotten themselves involved in. He said, there's still a transformation that needs to happen. You still don't, now you might be nice, but you still haven't learned what it means to be righteous. Oh man, that's a good dude. Yeah, he'll give you $1. He'll give you the shirt off his back. Yeah, that's cool. Guess what? If he eat pork, he's not righteous. If he's not keeping the Sabbath, he's not righteous. You might be, oh man, he a cool dude. Absolutely, absolutely. But you're still not righteous unless you keep the commandments. He said this is a part of it. When you're an Israelite and you want to serve God, he said, you better be ready to make some sacrifices. Let's go to Sirach chapter 2. Or the book of Ecclesiasticus. So if you're brand new to hearing about the Bible or learning the Bible, there were books that were taken out of the Bible by the Protestant Catholics, which are known as the Apocrypha. Apocrypha, coming from a Greek word that I might mispronounce, apocryphitis, which just means hidden books or hidden writings. Sirach chapter 2, let's start at verse 1.
This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2 and verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation.
Now look at that. This is like the disclaimer. This is like the warning label for the Bible. He said, look, if you come to serve the Lord, prepare yourself. And this is why I say, it's crazy? In most relationships of any kind, man and woman, friends, but especially between man and woman, usually we try to hide our flaws, present ourselves as this perfect person, and hope that the things that we do that are exceptional and rare, that we all, front, that we want to front for the sake of being accepted, we try to present our best foot forward, right? But then what happens? You get with this person, you realize they got flaws. You realize it's troubles in the flesh, it's struggles. They got this issue, they got that issue. They take everything as an attack. They feel threatened. They got traumas and things that you got to navigate and talk about. And then sometimes if you be so invested in a relationship you can't turn back, it almost feel like you betrayed. Like, man, you didn't tell me nothing about this. You got how much debt? 200,000. How did you do that? Like, why didn't you tell me? Because that's something I got to make the choice if I really want to be a part of that. The Most High he don't move like that. He like, look, I'm going to tell y'all what it is. I'm going to tell you what's on the other side. I'm going to show you the beauty. But he said, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you warning. You come to serve, prepare yourself. Because it's difficult. And life for our people is already difficult. Because whether you know you're an Israelite or not, you're cursed. That's why our people, we're the descendants of slaves. We're still serving in captivity. We still got jobs to go to, bills to pay. We still don't know what it's like to live because we're so busy surviving still to this day. He said, so on top of the fact that we have to endure the curses, he said, well, when you was out there in the world, you going through a tough time, you serve your conscience to the side for a little bit. You go steal. You feeling sexually pent up, you might go give yourself to somebody. You know what, I'm just, hey, going to the club tonight. I need some relief. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do for the sake of my own pleasure. Whatever that may be. Man, I'm mad, man. It's time to ride. It's time to slide. Get in the car, bro. It's how we handling it. But we can't do that anymore. So that's where the temptation comes in. That's where the affliction comes in, because the world teaches to be successful whatever it takes. Most High said, fight for the truth unto death, and I got you. I'll fight for you. We can't do the things that we're accustomed to doing and the way that we're accustomed to doing them. There's a sacrifice that has to be made. Verse 2.
Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble.
He said, get your mind right. It's real hard to do things without the right mindset. You might have an hour of doing something. You might even have 15 minutes of doing something. And you like, fine. You get out there and that 15 minutes feel like 4 hours. Because of your mindset. You like, man, I don't want to do this so bad. You dreading it, you overthinking it, and you replaying the scenario over and over in your mind, and then you half-assing it, so you're making it harder and more difficult, and then you got to go back and do the work twice. He said, look, the first thing you want to do, get your mind right. Set thy heart aright, he said, and constantly endure. Get ready. And make not haste in time of trouble. And he says, and when things get hard, because things are kind of always going to be underlying hard, he said, don't make a quick decision. A lot of times we do that. I'm uncomfortable right now. A lot of times we don't even understand the value or the importance of investment. All these other nations, they get it. They sit up here, man, I got $5,000. I'm going to put this in account, and I'm not going to see it for 40 years. But when I pull it out, it's going to be 300,000, or it's going to be 1.2 million. It's going to be something of higher value than what it is today. They understand. All right, I'll give the 5,000. Oh, that's a great return. I'll give my 5. I'll give my 10, my 15. Our people, we like, damn, I need that 5. I could do something today. Then in 40 years, you got nothing to show for it. You're still hoping for the next 5. It's a problem. Like, he said, look, don't make these choices too quick. Go ahead.
Cleave unto him, and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end.
He said, invest, cleave unto the Most High, and depart not away. Get close to God and don't leave his side. He said, because in the end, it's going to all be worth it. Sometimes we see that success in this life, and it's nice. It's nice when you have confidence and you feel, you walk around like you somebody special. It's even better when other people can see it. It's a little bit more satisfying. You ain't even got to show you this extra, debonair and this extra confidence and this extra strength. People just look at you and be like, oh, there's something different about him, something different about her. That's comfortable. That's nice. It's rewarding. He said, but no matter how it is, whether in this life or the next, stay patient. He said, I'm going to increase you at your last end. Go ahead.
Verse 4, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate.
He said, whatever you go through, take it with a grain of salt. That's the old saying. Take it cheerfully, understanding that this is already what he said was going to happen, that there's a reward for this struggle. And that's the thing. Our people who don't keep the commandments, that don't abide by the law, they going through hell and there's no reward. I know people that have gone through some real tragedies. You talking about funerals back to back to back to back, year after year. And it's like, if you don't even keep the commandments in your life, where's your rest going to come from? He only guarantees the kingdom of heaven to those that honor him, not only in word, but in deed. When you put your hand to the plow, when you keep the commandments, when you're obedient. So for all the tragedy that our people go through, there's a lot of our people that won't even get that rest. Go ahead.
Verse 5, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity.
He said gold is tried in the fire. And he's literally talking or speaking to the purification process of gold. They heat it up really hot, right? And as they purify this gold, they put it in a furnace. The other less expensive, less valuable metals will literally burn off. They can't handle the heat the same way that gold can. So you got your, if it's an alloy, you got a little bit of aluminum in there. It'll burn off. It'll melt away. Now you have a more pure gold. Got a little bit of iron in there. It's valuable, but not as valuable as gold. It'll burn off. And when you take it to a certain temperature and you leave it at that temperature where everything else can be burned off, you're left with the most pure gold that you can get, or a much more pure gold. He said, gold is tried in the fire. He said the same way that there's a purification process for gold, he said, you as a man, as a woman, I have to purify you. Because we come out of the world. We come out of trauma and traumatic situations and places where we had to survive. And we learn things. We learn how to manipulate. We learn how to lie. We learn how to deceive. We learn how to steal. We learn how to be sneaky. We learn all these different things. And he like, look, I want you. But you can't come in here like that. So I got to put you through some hell. And get all this stuff out of you. Put you in situations where lying only makes things worse. Put you in situations where deception and sneakiness and all this different type of stuff only makes it infinitely worse for you. And if you make the wrong choice, you get the consequence and you feel the sting of pain to say, man, I never want to do this again. You ever had them experiences? You have something that scares you straight, so to speak? You like, man, I ain't never going back there. And you be praying, Lord, if you just get me out, I'm never coming back. I'm not going over there with them. I'm never getting in that car again. I'm never going to this. He said, I got to do that to you so that you can be made pure. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 3. Same thing he says to the men, he says to our sisters. 1 Peter chapter 3, we're going to read verse 5 and 6.
This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 3 and verse 5.
Uh-huh.
For after this manner, in the old time, the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands.
So first and foremost, there's a plethora of laws, right? And there are so many, and I'm going to get some more scriptures on that to emphasize how important the law is. There's so much of a significance that's placed on the keeping of the commandments, and then also on character. He said, in the old time, holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands. There's a lot of changes you got to make. Now, some women, excuse me, this is not a crazy ask. This is not it's not too far-fetched from what they already conditioned and desire to do for a man. They're like, oh yeah, of course, he's in charge, he's responsible, he's the head. They don't have no problem following and listening. And then you got some women that are more indoctrinated and influenced, and they didn't experience certain things, and there weren't certain things put into them, and it's more of a struggle. Like, they used to getting whatever they want. They used to having things accommodated just for their sakes. They used to having everybody back up so they can get what they want, or, you know, move out the way. This becomes more difficult. Go ahead. Verse 6. Uh-huh.
Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well.
He said, hold on. He said, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as you do well. As long as ye do well. We are a peculiar people. We are a treasure. We are the chosen. But we are holy, but only as long as we do well. Yeah, we still got the natural abilities and special privileges. We got the melanated skin, the higher level of creatine in our blood. That's a scientific fact that our people have a higher level of creatine that helps us build muscle different from the other nations. These are perks of being chosen. But what really makes you special is not just a title, it's your behavior and how you execute that title and that office. It's a lot of people that's managers that don't manage nothing. It's a lot of people that's in high positions on jobs, and everybody who's under them, subordinate, they like, oh, he don't know what he doing, she don't know what she doing. You got the title, but you doing it wrong. He said, as long as you obey, that title means something. It carries the value that it's supposed to. That's for men and women. Go ahead.
As long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement.
Let's get it's going to go into marriage. But he also tells the husband to give honor unto the wives. Let's go to Revelation chapter 22. This is, you know what, this is becoming one of my favorite law-wise, because this is one of them irrefutable, like, anchors. 22 and 14. This is the last book of the Bible.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 22 and verse 14.
Last chapter. Go ahead.
Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life.
This is only of the children of Israel. The whole Bible is already about the children of Israel. I am your God and none else. You are my treasure, and you shall not be ashamed. I'm only dealing with you. I only know you of all the families. You even have scriptures where Christ was walking the earth, and he's saying, I am not sent but into the lost sheep of the house of Israel. There was no different doctrine that Christ brought that was different from the chosen, or different in understanding from who the chosen are and what the requirements were, outside of, y'all don't sacrifice no more animals. I'm tired of y'all sitting up here sinning and sacrificing. Don't sacrifice, get it right. That's the only shift that you even see between the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's not just going to be transactional. It's got to be, you got to offer it within yourself. It's not going to be something external. He said, blessed are they that do his commandments. If you're keeping the commandments, you wear your fringes, you keep the Sabbath, you're not eating no pork, no shrimp, no lobster, no crab, you're not wearing mixed fabrics, you're not sinning, He said, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life. Not everybody has right to the tree of life. And it'd be a tough pill to swallow, because you got to meditate. It's a lot of people we love. It's a lot of people I love that I see get sick. Situation right now. And I'm like, man, if only you would have kept the law. If only. I've lost people that are already long gone. It's people that are, close, I should say. And I'm just like, man, the reality is, as much as I love you, I can't. How can I get you into the kingdom of heaven outside of teaching you and the things that I tried to do for you? But I'm not the one that's going to be at the door saying yes or no. It's an unfortunate reality that so many of our loved ones, our friends, our whoever, won't have right to the tree of life, literally will not make it into the kingdom of heaven because they refuse to humble themselves to the Most High's law. And it don't matter who it is. If they not doing this, they are not welcome. It's that serious. And it's that simple. He said, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they, which are doing his commandments, have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. Read verse 15.
For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
So all the things, he said, outside of the kingdom of heaven is all the sinners. The dogs, the wizards, the sorcerers. And this is what I was talking about as far as how common sin is. Look at how many women are claiming to be witches now. You even have witch conferences taking place middle of the year, no Halloween. Women that are seriously into casting spells, doing curses, practicing voodoo, that are mediums. Oh, I can talk to your dead loved one. Oh, I got a special intuition about you. Oh, let me see your palm. I'll tell you your future. Oh, I've seen a sister that was like, oh, I felt like I was pregnant, so I went to my mom, and she held a crystal over my stomach, and if the crystal rotates counterclockwise, it's a girl, and if it rotates, I was like, what? I'm like, that sounds like witchcraft. I don't do that with my kids. I don't care. Hey, I don't want to know. And there may be some type of value. Okay, you're like, oh, shungite, it absorbs radiation. Yeah, but to sit up here and say that this has this much power and this is going to save you, and you're doing too much. To be trying to pluck people's hair and then you can cast stuff over it and make them feel and think certain things, you're going off. Whoremongers, a man that lays with all these different women and he's not taking them to be wives. He's not taking care of them. They hardly see him. They hardly learn from him. He's not offering no spiritual advice, no counsel, no understanding, no knowledge, no finances. He's not present. He's not active. He's not protecting. That's a whoremonger. He over here, he over there, he over here, he that one, this, a whoremonger. And murderers. You already know what a murderer is. And idolaters, someone that's worshiping a deity or another god. And oftentimes, we can make ourselves gods. I just want to be happy. I just want what I want. And whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. Let's go to 2nd 8. He makes it very clear. He said, look, not everybody's going to make it. And this is of the children of Israel. We're not even talking about all the people on the earth. This Bible isn't written for all the people on the earth. We're talking about the children of Israel specifically. 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 3.
This is the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 3. There be many created, but few shall be saved.
He said, there be many created. There are so many people on this earth. We're talking about billions. I think they said, I saw something that said you could have spent like $1,000 a day since the time that Christ walked the earth, and you still wouldn't have $1 billion? Billions of people. That's an insane number. And of those billions, the children of Israel is like the sands of the sea. And he said, there are many created, but few shall be saved. Not everyone's going to heaven. Not everyone is going to be even chosen. Let's go over to Matthew chapter 22, verse 4. He said it's always a distinction. It's even a distinction amongst the chosen.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 22, and verse 14. For many are called, but few are chosen.
He said, many are called, but few are chosen. Not only is it that there are many that are created and few shall be saved, but on a nearly daily basis, well, matter of fact, amongst Israel as a whole, on a daily basis, this word is going forth, right? There's a number of congregations out there that have classes, and there's a class, there's the word going out, there's live streams, there's lessons on a daily basis, right? And even as a man and woman that's in this truth, you always on the job yourself. You might be you had a long day, worked a 10-hour shift, you need the overtime. Maybe you worked at 12. Man, I need the overtime. I'm just trying to go to the store real quick. Maybe I might just give me a little wine and I'm going home. Next you know, somebody, hey, what's that on your shirt? Oh, my bad, man. I didn't want to interrupt you. I just was curious. What is this? And there's your opportunity to serve. You might not be a teacher. You might not be in the service of the teaching of the word, but you're still a servant to the Most High. And you still got to be able to give account and give an answer as to why it is that you do what you do, so that the people who see you can have that understanding and make a choice for themselves as well. But do you know how many of our people hear this word and could care less? When you come into the truth, when you come into keeping the commandments and honoring the law, it be this excitement. Oh my goodness. I never knew the Bible said that. We're not supposed to eat shrimp. We're not supposed to eat crab. We're not supposed to eat pork. We're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do that. Man, I never even knew that all of these things were required to get into the kingdom of heaven. And then you start telling family, tell mom and dad, brother, sister, cousin. But then you realize, oh, why don't you care the way I care? Why don't you receive this the way that I'm receiving it? Then all of a sudden you got family that's clowning you, disrespecting you, talking crazy. Like, what? Man, I remember I told my grandma before I was getting fridges put on my uniform shirts in school. I'm like, Grandma, can you sew this on for me? She was like, what you want this on your shirt for? You look like a sissy. She old school. She like 80-something. I'm like, man, Grandma, just put it on the shirt. You know, I didn't say that to her, but I'm like, man, this is crazy, because I'm looking at her and I'm like, you've been a devout Christian your whole life. You always talking about God. You got that big old large print Bible in your car. I'm rolling home from school with Grandma, and she got the them radio channels that's just preaching. That's all she listening to. I'm like, man, if anybody that I thought was going to receive this with gladness, I thought it was going to be you. But guess what? She heard the call. She has the opportunity to be able to repent. And a lot of times people can't. It's not even because you lose, I don't want to say the argument, but ultimately you lose the argument. I'm not even talking about when you lack understanding. I'm talking about because our people don't care. They hear the call. They say, but they like, I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to sacrifice. I don't really want to give things up. Or I already have a doctrine and it's more convenient. I don't want to hear that. Let me turn this radio up. Pastor Jackson, Pastor Johnson, T.D. Snake. Oh, I like this better. T.D. Snakes and Joel Osteen, and I like what he talking about better. It's easier. Let them tell it. You ain't got to even worry about God, except for on Sunday. The only sacrifice you got to make is some money. You a millionaire. What is it to buy your way into the kingdom of heaven? It's nothing. It's nothing. That's not even what the Bible says. Let's go back to Revelation. Chapter 3. We're going to read verse 20 and 21.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse 20.
Uh-huh.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him, and he with me.
So this is Red Writing. This is Christ. He said, look, I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm knocking at the door. You still have a choice. It's just like if somebody came to your house. Some people got that no call, no show policy at the house. If you didn't call me ahead of time, I'm not showing up at that door. But Christ is saying, look, I'm giving all my people, all my children the opportunity to open the door to me, to allow me in to change them. And he said, and if you'll let me, I'll gladly come in and I'll dwell there. I'm not just going, you just magically, like you just lift it up. And no, he's like, I'm going to dwell there with you. We can sit down and have a meal. I'm here to stay. He said, you can sup with me and I'll sup with you. Verse 21.
Verse 21. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne.
When you read this Bible, you get some real serious insight on what it means to strive to be righteous. You see wars in this Bible. You see some really devastating times in history recorded in this Bible. Mass deaths, genocide, wars, lost battles, rivers turned to blood with the lost, curses and plagues, judgments. You see so many different things, and the common thread is always, we have to be proven. We have to show forth not only our faith within our walk, but it has to be tested. How far are you willing to go? How much can you handle? How much faith do you have? How much love do you have? What are you willing to do for salvation? Because you have to think, everybody's not worthy to come to your house, right? You just anybody off the street, they just coming inside? Absolutely not. Even if you live by yourself, some people are like, oh man, I got too much to that's a risk. Okay, but what if you was in total control? Would you just let anybody in? They got access to your food. They got access to your fridge. They got access to your space. Is everybody just welcome? He said, no. But if you overcome, because the world is going to challenge you in every aspect of the word, this world is going to challenge you. From your loved ones turning their back on you, when you start following God, you start to realize how hypocritical people are. Devoted Christians, you show them things that's in the Bible. I'm willing to do anything for Jesus. Man, did you know the Bible say you're not supposed to eat pork? I won't do that. Like, damn, thought you said anything. Yeah. I could see, there are certain temptations, even Christ was like, pray that you enter not into temptation. This is difficult. But certain things is like, damn, bro, or damn, sis, you got total control of what you eat. You're not even willing to give up some pork. You're not even willing to give up some shrimp. You got total control of what you wear. You're not willing to put on a dress. And people will be like, oh, I can't put the fringes on my shirt. It's my work shirt. I'm like, bro. They asking for the shirt back. You get fired tomorrow. They like, we need this shirt. They don't even do that. Oh, I can't wear a skirt at the job. First, how have you challenged that? Have you talked to HR and said, hey, look, this is my religious beliefs and this is what I believe. You're going to either have to accommodate me or fire me. Put forth the effort to fight for the truth. And he said he'll fight for you in return. He'll make a way. He'll open the door. He said, if you overcome, he said, I'll grant you to sit at my throne, even as I overcame and my Father lets me sit at his throne. Let's go to Romans 8:8. This is a hard knock life. And it becomes even harder when you decide to do the right thing, because doing the right thing is it's times where you got to humble yourself and it don't even feel fair. Somebody got something negative to say about you and you like, man, I'm putting in all this work. I'm giving all these hours and everything that I've been tried to do, and this is what you walked away from me with. Like, damn, you gotta humble yourself when you getting treated wrong. It's a lot of things that the Most High says He finds honorable. Yes, 8 and 18.
This
lots
is
of things. Go ahead.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 8 and verse 18. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be relieved in us.
Which shall be revealed in us.
Which shall be revealed in us.
He said, look, it's going to be tough. And it's a lot harder because we can't do the same things that the world allows themselves to do. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We have to dig deeper than everybody else, push ourselves further than everybody else, sacrifice more than everybody else. But he said, look, for all of the difficult times that you go through, because you was already going through them before you even knew God. And before before Christ knocked and came and supped with you, he said, you was already going through it. But now it's a little bit different because you can't, there's restrictions and violations that you don't want on your spiritual resume. He said, but for all the difficult times that you've gone through here, he said, it's not even worthy to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed in you. It's not even worthy to compare the sufferings of this life to the pleasure of the next in the kingdom of heaven. We go through things just off top, no matter how hard it is, just off top, the time alone don't compare. Even if we was trading at a ratio from 40 to 1, that's crazy. All right, you live 40 years, and you live 40 years righteously. Okay, so 4 times 4, I'm going to give you 160 years. No, 1,600 years. I'm going to give you a lot of years of rest. It's not even that. He said, oh yeah, 1,600. He said, it's not even to be compared. Even if you were given a ratio that would come to an end, it still wouldn't be comparable. Because everything that you sacrifice, you're going to receive so much more than what you ever had to give. But he said, I'm not going to give you 40 times over or even 100 times over. I'm giving you infinity. It never ends. You sacrifice your life, I'm going to give you a life that never ends. You sacrifice some of your health, I'm going to give you health that never falters. You sacrifice family, he said, I'm going to give you a new family. Everything that we give up in this life, he said, know that it's not in vain. I'm taking account of everything. Oh, you sacrifice, he said, I got it on record. Count it to your righteousness. He said, man, I'm going to give you something so glorious, it's not even worthy to be compared. It's not even, they don't even measure up. And this is the last 2 scriptures, just as far as the other nations are concerned. Isaiah chapter 14. So, and oftentimes the next question that comes up is, well, if we're the chosen of Israel, we're the chosen people of the Most High, the children of Israel. And all these promises and all these covenants are made with us and us alone. Well, what about everyone else that's upon the earth? Because we're compassionate people. We're very caring people. Oftentimes, sometimes it could be to a fault. But he even talks about that. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14. Yes, we're going to read 1 through 3 and then 21 and 22.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, and verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them.
Hold on. Let's break this down. He said, the Lord will yet have mercy on Jacob. When you read this Bible and you realize how much our people have sinned, and keep in mind, this is the Old Testament. This is only a portion or part way through our story. Our story is still being written, so to speak. It's still actively going. He said, but the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and still chooses Israel. It says, and set them in their own land. Right now, we're not in our own land. Even if you come from a different country and you like, well, I got a place I can go to, that ain't even your original land. If you're a slave, you shouldn't be trying to go back to where your people settled in slavery. You should be trying to go back from where the boat left from. We're descendants of slaves here. We got a land that we can identify with. We have a language that we speak. This is not ours. This don't belong to us. He said he will yet choose them, set them in their own land. That's something powerful all these other nations understand. To have your own land. We don't write the laws here. They got a few shucking and grinning, of our people that's in the government that need to look a certain way or that get used to get the black vote and all that type of stuff. But we don't govern this land. This land is governed for us, and we're governed, and we're subject, and we're oppressed at that. He said, I'm going to sit you in your own land. You know what comes with land? Your own government, your own laws, your own rule. A leadership that's in interest, or that's interest, is the preservation of a people. Does this land care about us? Absolutely not. He said, and the strangers shall be joined with them. All these other nations that are strangers to the Commonwealth of Israel, that don't have nothing to do with our people, he said they're going to be joined with you, right? They're going to go with you. Go ahead.
And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
He said they're going to go with you, and they're going to stick with you. Go ahead.
And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for the servants and handmaids.
Hold on. He said, these other people, these strangers, the Lord is going to take them, bring them to their place, and our people, the house of Israel, shall possess. You know what possess means? Own. He said, for these other nations, when we're talking about the white man, the Arab man, the Asian man, all the other nations that are upon the face of the earth, for those that are willing to repent and willing to be of service of the Lord, he said the service that they will be doing is to be owned by the children of Israel. This is the Bible. He said, for servants and handmaids. What does a servant do? They serve. They got a job. And you know what's crazy? It's absolutely fair, because what are we doing right now? We serving. We work to survive by serving. Whether you got a nice job, whether you got a minimum wage job, your life is being spent in the contribution and building up of a kingdom that you do not benefit from. And a kingdom who does not have your best interests at heart. And a kingdom with a history of violating, oppressing, murdering, raping, destroying your people. We shouldn't feel no type of way about this. All God is saying is, I'm going to do the same thing to them. But the whole difference is we got a law. They don't have no boundaries. They'll destroy our people in every which kind of way. Do every kind of thing to men, women, and children. We don't even move like that. So when they serve, they're not going to have to experience the same level of oppression and the wickedness that we've experienced. They're going to see what it's like to serve a righteous leader. But they still got to serve. And you know what a handmaid is, right? What's the word in there that you see? Maid. What do a maid do? They cleaning up. Oh, I'll straighten this up for you. I organize your books. I stack this up. I dusted the, oh, all right, you did good. This is what it is. You got friends that's of another nation. Oh, this is my best friend from so many years ago. This is my someone who was there for me in my time of need. That's perfectly fine. They still got to serve. That's what the Bible says. This is what God has written for us to follow, for us to understand. But read the next part. Listen to this.
And they shall take them captives, who captives they were.
And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. How did we get to this land? I don't remember taking a plane. We are the descendants of slaves. Literally, in my family, on my mother's side, my grandfather's uncle was a slave. I thought it was only his grandfather. I recently learned even his uncle was a slave. My grandfather is alive right now. That's how recent slavery was. We are captives in this land, given to the service of another people without even the decency of giving us what we need to survive. He said, but guess what? The same way that you've been captive in their land, that you had to serve them, that you had to put your life on hold because you got to get up and go to work the next morning, the same way that, think about all the moments that we miss having to provide. Father gone all day. He got to make something happen. Sometimes even mother gone all day. What happens to the kids? Something else is going to raise them. Whether they influenced by screens all day, whether they have, hopefully you got some family that can look after them and care about them. But he said, the same way that you were their captives and you were stuck and you had to do what you had to do to survive, they're going to be your captives. Go ahead.
And they shall rule over their oppressors.
And we're going to rule over our oppressors. The same way that we have to answer a certain way, behave a certain way. And it's even worse because we have to live with constant fear in our hearts because we might not be able to. If you say the wrong thing or move the wrong way, how many people have died that were innocent? Didn't have no gun in the car, didn't have no drugs in the car, wasn't about that type of life, and still lost their life from doing something simple at the hands of our oppressors. He said, you're going to rule over them. All the years that you had to serve, and this is why he said earlier in the Bible, ye shall never be ashamed. Never be ashamed of this. Because we already live in our shame. Our shame is now. We got to sit up here and struggle and live in the hood and ghettos, and the streets smell like piss, and there's dried up blood on the ground. There's prostitutes and homeless. The food is crap. The air quality is terrible. You got all these places that they doing construction, and you see all these violations in the hood. I've done construction before. When they was working on, what was that? Florence, they did probably like about a year ago, but I even think they did something recently on Manchester. I'm like, dude, do you know how dangerous concrete dust is? It's called silica. It's almost like extremely fine pieces of glass. And when you breathe it in, it slowly but surely cuts your lungs up. And in an effort to heal your lungs, it develops scar tissue. But the scar tissue traps the silica and creates more scar tissue. So what's basically happening is your lung is closing in on itself in an effort to heal itself. And it's a slow process of suffocating that can take decades. Silicosis is the name of the condition. People who worked in coal mines, people who work with concrete, I believe even with asphalt, they're at higher risk. I'm sitting up here driving down Florence, and I'm like, damn, they tore the road up. The road been tore up for like 2 weeks, and it's just a big cloud of dust. Now, most people don't know the danger. I'm like, damn, I can't even hold my breath long enough to get through this. It's everywhere. You already see how they do our people. They'll wait 30, 40 years. All them deaths, all the people that's already dead and gone, families that mourned and grieved and don't even feel like fighting about it anymore. And then you see that commercial. If you or a loved one has been affected, by so-and-so, and you may be entitled to compensation.
Mesothelioma.
Right, mesothelioma. Right. That was the first one that I thought of. The mesothelioma. Look how long it took for them to come out with that one. They're like, if you was in, you got to realize how little they regard our lives. You know what the solution? This how little they regard our lives. You know what the solution to dealing with silicosis? And I'm talking about, or excuse me, not silicosis, the silica. All you have to do is hose it down with water. and the water traps the dust. Literally, all you have to do is wet the street, and you could save lives. And they don't even have somebody out there to do that much. I'm like, this is crazy. So when we talking about owning and possessing these people, man, I don't feel no type of way about it, because at least I wouldn't even do nothing like that to you. What's my incentive to just see you just, like, come on now. Drop down to, read verse 3.
Verse 3. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve.
And he said, look, I'm going to give you rest. This is a part of the covenant. Keeping the commandments, honoring the Most High, being given salvation, and being welcomed in the kingdom of heaven. He said, in that day, I'm going to give you rest from your sorrow. It's people we lose, loved ones that we can't save, diseases that are totally preventable. Like, our lives are just regarded as nothing. They like, hey, they make it seem like plastic was this great invention. Do you know how harmful plastic is? All these microplastics that's in our blood, that's affecting our cells, that's even damaging the fertility rate in men. They said a 70-year-old man of today has the same level of testosterone as a 20-year-old. They're predicting, this is something you could look up and verify, by 2050 that the fertility rate of men will be 0. Do you know we in 2024? You're talking another 25 years, because we towards the end of 2024. Scientists predict in 25 years that the contaminants in our bodies will be so overwhelming, there will be no more children born. I mean, first of all, do people even know that? And then second of all, why is there not this outrage and this outcry and this, well, our people, first and foremost, we too busy surviving. I bet you if you gave every so-called Negro, Latino, Brazilian, all the different names and bywords that we go by, if you said you have an unlimited amount of money to invest in your survival, you can't go on no vacation, you can't, live a life of luxury, but you can invest in your survival. You can buy the best food, you can buy the best seeds, you can buy the best water, you can buy the best containers, glass and metal and all these different. Don't worry about it, it's taken care of. I guarantee you the vast majority of our people would go and buy nice things to invest in their own health, especially if it's free to them. But the problem is, that's difficult when you got to do it. I looked it up recently. A 5-gallon glass jug for water, that joint was $60. $60 for what's basically a glorified water bottle made of glass. I'm in the store and I see the big plastic one, which is going to leak contaminants into my water. That's endocrine disruptors and hormone disruptors and releasing microplastics into my blood and my not respiratory but reproductive system. And I said that, Jake. That thing like $15, $20. So if you gotta choose, I want to do something good. It's harder to survive. It's a difficult choice that oftentimes our people are unable to make. When we talk about being oppressed and being sorrowful, we're doing all this work and suffering all these things and don't even have basics. We live in what's called food deserts, where you have to go search far and wide to find authentic or nutritious food. McDonald's on the corner, even now, McDonald's is expensive. But they still coming out with their value meals. They'll find a way to still get you to spend your money. But is that real food? You know how many experiments it is? People like, hey, yeah, this is my Big Mac from 1990. It looked the same as the day that you bought it. What type of food is that where it don't even break down? So if it don't break down in natural air and exposed to the elements, imagine what it's not doing in your body. Clogging things up, slowing things down, releasing chemicals in your body forever. And all you was trying to do is eat and satisfy your soul. Do you see the type of life we live? And that's just one aspect of it. That's just food and water. Not talking about gang violence, not talking about being subject to laws, not talking about being subject to payments, not talking about the massive amount of taxes that gets taken out of your check. We're not even getting into all of that yet. We live a sorrowful life. He said, and from thy fear. We fear disease. We fear danger. We fear the other nations. We never know when our time is coming or when our time might be. He said, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. We serve in a hard bondage. Man, it's a couple of people I know, he's 16 hours a day. He working 12s and relieved. Oh man, I got so much more. What am I gonna do with all this extra time? I'm like, damn. That's still a long time to be working. You working half your day. You gotta sleep 6, 7, 8 hours. You got about 4 hours to yourself to try to free yourself from your predicament. But you also gotta decompress. You also got to check on family, run errands, wash clothes, buy food, make meals, tend to children. You got 4 hours. Maybe 6 if you cut into your sleep, which that also shortens your life. Look at the choices we face with. Look at the life that we live. But he said, that's why the scriptures are so beautiful, because the promises that's in here, he said, I'm going to give you rest, but you have to uphold your end of the bargain by keeping the commandments, converting. Last one, 2 Ezra chapter 6. Another book that's in the Apocrypha. Just so that we can understand having this covenant, like how much he deals with us above these other nations. And he even said, I don't mind, I don't care about them other nations. 2 Ezra chapter 6, we're going to start at 54. Let's read to the end of the chapter.
This is the book of 2 Ezra, chapter 6, and verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all.
So he said, look, Adam was made, and everybody comes from Adam, one way or another, right? We all come from, Noah was a descendant of Adam, and the world was remade during the time of Noah with his sons and their wives. But still, a direct link can be traced back to Adam. He said, of him come we all, go ahead.
And the people also whom thou hast chosen.
And the people you chose. Everybody comes from Adam. That's how they be like, oh, we're all God's creation. We're all God's creatures. We're all God. Yeah, we are his creatures in his creation, but we're not all his chosen. We're his chosen. He said, and the people whom thou hast chosen. Go ahead.
All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes.
He said the world itself was created for our sakes. We talking about owning a house, got my own car. First and foremost, the house dream is becoming a fleeting idea because of inflation and how expensive everything is. But even if you say, I got my own spot, I got an apartment, the whole world is supposed to be yours. I'm not trying to take away the enjoyment. I got a place. I got to pay to live. But to know that the world belongs to us, what I got and what we have as a people, it don't compare. Go ahead.
Verse 56. As for the other people, which also come of Adam.
So out of all these other nations that are not the Israelites, that are not his beloved, he said they also come of Adam. Go ahead.
Thou hast said that they are nothing.
They are what?
Nothing.
He said the other nations that are not of children of Israel, the Most High God said these nations are nothing to me. Go ahead.
But be like unto spittle.
He said he compares them to spit. And what a comparison. Is your spit always, your spit is always present. I just spit a little bit talking right now. Our spit is always present, but how valuable is it? You'd be, actually, spit is more, what do you call that? Is more frowned upon than enjoyed. You spit on somebody, they like, damn, man, you got to back up when you talking, bro. That's nasty. I don't want that. Don't touch me with that. Don't let that touch me. Let somebody collect they spit in a jar. You be like, oh, this is a strange person. You're disgusting. Spit is something to be disregarded. Absolutely, it's always present. And in most situations, it actually plays a role. It's just not valuable. And in fact, is more detestable than it is valuable. That's how the Most High says, this is how I look at these other nations. They always around. They might have a purpose, but they're detestable. Go ahead.
And has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel.
And he says, he compares, so if you have a bottle of water and you pour out all the water, do you sit up here and try to tap the bottle and flick the bottom of it to get those last few drops that get caught in corners and caught on the ridges of the water bottle? No. Maybe some people do in some very, very bad situations, but for the most part, you're still going to put the top back on and look in that bottle and see just a little bit left. And you kind of just already understand, I'm probably never going to get all this, but you disregard it. You throw that bottle away. It is what it is. I got what I was really there for, which is this glass that I've now filled, or this meal that I've prepared. I could care less about the drop that I missed. I got what I needed. He said that's how he feels about the other nations. A drop that falleth from a vessel. Go ahead.
And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us.
So Esdras, he's speaking to God, he's speaking to the Most High, and he's saying, Lord, these other nations, which he calls them heathen, which means godless. He was like, these other nations, these heathen, they've always been reputed as nothing. It's always been understood they don't even have no real value. He said, how are they ruling over us? And to devour us, not just ruling over, but destroying us. Go ahead.
Verse 58. But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands.
He said, but we the ones that you chose. We the ones that you've been dealing with. We the ones that you gave a law. We the ones that you delivered. We're the ones you saved from out of the hand of Egypt. We're the ones you saved from Goliath. We're the ones that you saved from the Philistines and the Canaanites and the Jebusites, and the list goes on and on. He said, we're given into their hands? These nobodies? Yeah, it feel way worse. I mean, taking a loss is already bad, but when you take a loss to somebody that you easily expect to overpower, it's a different level of humility you get. Like, oh my, I can't believe this. And it's happening over and over and over and over on a daily basis. We are taking losses at the hands of heathen, of the godless, of the worthless, according to the Most High God himself. Go ahead.
Verse 59. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure?
He said, man, if the whole world was made for us, why do we not own it? Why is it not given into our hands? Why are we paying for water? Falls from the sky, goes into rivers and streams and channels. How is it that we have to be subject to every little thing that these other nations do and say unto us, when this whole earth was really made for our sakes? The whole purpose of this creation was to be given and for us to inhabit. He said, how is this so? He said, how long shall this endure? The last one, this is actually the real last one, Deuteronomy 30. Let's answer his question. Deuteronomy chapter 30, I think we're going to get 1 through 3. So after everything is said and done, because right now we're cursed, right? We're living with disadvantages. We're living misfortuned lives. And we're looking for the solution. We're looking for the brighter day. Let's read 30 and 1.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee. And thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee.
So he says, when all these things happen, because we had a choice to make, we was either going to obey and be blessed or disobey and be cursed. He said, now, when you get the results of your own choices, blessing or cursing, and you remember this covenant among whatever nation that you get driven to or whatever it is that you end up being with whatever it is that you end up doing, go ahead.
And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
He said, and you return to the Lord your God, obeying his voice, keeping his commandments, you and your children, because we have to teach our children. There's too many times I see people in this truth. You got on the proper attire, you got on fringes, you are a wife, or you have a wife, she in a dress and a head wrap, and then you got a daughter and she got on pants with no fringes. You got a son with shorts and he ain't got no fringes on. They don't know the Sabbath. I'm like, what happened? Brother, I'm like, bro, what happened to you? They got to learn too. They're a part of this covenant too. You got to teach them, educate them, bring them in and bring them up properly. He said, thou and thy children, you keep this with all your heart and with all your soul, verse 3.
That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee.
He said, if you do these things diligently and properly, he said, I'm going to deliver you from all these nations. I'm going to turn your captivity. You're no longer going to have to do all the things that you've had to do just to survive. You're no longer going to have to give your life to the service of nation. You're no longer going to have to be scattered and isolated from amongst your own people. He said, I'm going to gather you back up and I'm going to put you in your own land and give you peace and give you rest and give you an eternal kingdom. This is the holy covenant that the Most High God has made with the children of Israel. So all praise to the Most High. We appreciate the support. We appreciate everybody that tunes in. I hope this has been edifying, that it's been helpful, that if you're new to understanding, that it was simple to understand, and it increases not only your understanding but your faith. And with that, we say shalom. Peace.